today with none other than Alisa Cohn, one of the world's most highly regarded executive coaches. The list of companies that Alisa has worked with is mind-blowing. But I'm going to ask Alisa, and thank you very much for joining us today, to share a little bit more about what she does herself.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for having me. And I'm an executive coach, as you said, and I've worked with companies like Venmo and Etsy and Foursquare and Envision, but also more large established companies like Google, Microsoft, Dell, Hitachi, companies like that, Pfizer. So I worked with a broad section of both from startup to large established companies. I also am an author. I wrote a book called From Startup to Grown Up. It came out in October 2021. And I also have a podcast also called From Startup to Grown Up, where I interview founders about their journey from founder to leader. And the last thing I do is I write for Forbes and for Inc. and for Harvard Business Review. So it's a lot of things. I'm busy.
How do you do it all? That is incredible, and it ties in so well with the Winner Magazine publication that's tied into, of course, the NS News. Now, for the level of success that you have achieved, there must have been some milestones along the way that were notable markers in your journey. Can you share some of those with us, please?
Sure. I mean, I've always been a seeker, and so I will say that when I was 14 years old, I was on a bus with my friend, and we were having that conversation about, if you could do anything you wanted when you were a grown-up and you didn't have to worry about money, what would you do? And I said, have intense conversations. That's what I would do all day, every day, all the time. So now I'm a coach, and I get to have intense conversations all day, every day. And if I have an intense conversation with somebody, we meet for an hour, and maybe they're done. But that's okay. I'll meet with somebody else and have an intense conversation with them. So that was kind of like the thing that was me. Now, that all said, I was a journalism major in the nonprofit world, and I got very interested in why. I worked as the chief of staff to the provost of a New England college. And the provost at some point said, you can't manage faculty because they have tenure. And I was super young, but I thought, I can't be. That people will only do what you want them to do because otherwise you'll fire them. And that set me off on a path to do strategy consulting at the Monitor Group and then to business school to really study and look at why do people do what you want them to do in service of the organization, or why don't they? So, that was another marker. And then I would say at business school, I got all turned around. I focused on finance and accounting and strategy. I exited the PricewaterhouseCoopers on their so-called fast track to partner program. And, it was a 5-year to partner program. And I thought I was all set. This journalism major, I'm all set, I'm good. But I think a lot about the Joseph Campbell quote. If you can see your path all the way through to the end, you are following someone else's path. Your path only becomes clear as each foot hits the ground. And that was like an epiphany for me, in the sense that my path's all laid out for me, but there's another path I want. So that's when, again, I had to seek again. And I was like, what am I going to do now? And I met a coach at a conference. And literally, violins played in my head. This is what I want to do. And so those were the seeds of what set me on my path. And 20 years later, it's been one foot in front of the other on that path.
That just gave me goosebumps. And you do have a wonderful way of motivating people. We were just chatting earlier about your YouTube series. I was listening to that on the way in, and I have to say, everyone needs to listen to Alisa Cohn. Now, back to some advice for our listeners. Are there any partnerships that you found particularly helpful in helping you achieve the level of success that you have as an executive coach?
Well, if you think about, when you say partnerships, honestly, all of us need people all around us. You can only be as successful as people around you will let you be. And so that means you need to build relationships, friendships, colleagueship, acquaintanceship, people all around you. So one person I will always give voice to is the very famous executive coach, Marshall Goldsmith. I was in San Diego. I decided to winter in San Diego because I worked for myself and I could just do that. And I realized that the very famous, the well-known, the one and only, inimitable Marshall Goldsmith lived in San Diego. And I thought, I'm going to find that guy. So I looked and looked for him and I couldn't find him. I was like, who knows him? No one knew him. So I sent him an email and I said, "Dear Marshall, I'm in San Diego for this period and I would love to meet with you, even if it only be for a brief period." To his credit, he kindly wrote back to me and he scheduled a time far out in the future, and he took me on a long walk around his then home in Rancho Santa Fe, this long walk. And at some point he said to me, "How can I make your life better?" I know. That was a very powerful question, and I was not prepared for it. So I was like, I just want to spend more time with you, Marshall. At the end of the walk, we're in his driveway, and I was getting back into my car, and I thought, I know he's the big mentor, but you have to step up here too. So I said, "Marshall, how can I make your life better?" And he said, "I know." And he said, "Well, there's a project that you can work on with me." And I was like, wow. I literally, the words that came out of my mouth were, "I can't say yes fast enough." That's what I said. He thought I lived in San Diego. It was like very funny. He said, "But it's in New York." I'm like, "Perfect, I live in Boston." I was actually flying home like that next day. So, next thing I know, I was in the executive dining room of this massive bank. And he mentored me personally for 2 years. He's still a very close mentor and friend of mine. And he inspires me every day. And so that's the person I really have to give voice to. He's built a community of the top coaches in the world, and I'm blessed and honored to be part of that community. And through that community, I've met a million other people who have also helped me along the way. And I guess I really want to say this about relationships. It's powerful to build relationships no matter what. To give first. To give not in the sense you'll be given back to, but just to be the kind of person who gives to everyone around you. And one way or another, it does come back to you. Not always in the way you think, but for all of us, I'd like to live in a world where everyone's on my team and I'm on everyone else's team.
What a beautiful way to leverage the community around you. What a story. Thank you for sharing that with us, Alisa. Now, are there any, I know you've talked about some challenges, but at that level where, let's say, you're Alisa Cohn, you're that executive coach everyone knows, have there been any challenges that have come up, and how have you overcome those?
Have there been any challenges that come up? Many challenges. I mean, when I first started my business, I didn't know what I was doing. So it was like, I remember vividly, two things I remember vividly, both have to do with tears. One was, I was doing the best I could and trying to make calls and whatever, and I just got completely overwhelmed. I got onto my hardwood floor. I was living in Brooklyn at the time. I had a hardwood floor in my living room. I got into my hardwood floor living room, curled up in the fetal position, and started crying, like a stress cry. Like, it was terrible. It was miserable, like crying. And by the way, that's like so pathetic, right? You're there by yourself in the fetal position. Still human. And the thing is about that experience is I'm finished crying, right? There's an end to these, that's the whole thing. Everything's temporary. The good things are temporary, the bad things are temporary. That was a very difficult moment, and it was temporary. And then I got on my couch, I took a stress nap. I woke up, and I got back on the phones. Because that's what it takes. You have to overcome challenges. You can't be daunted by that. Another time, again, I was feeling overwhelmed for whatever reason. This was the first year of my business. I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. And I walked into the gym. And I don't know what happened. I became overwhelmed. I just went to the corner. I started crying in the gym. Again, like, what will become of me? That was like the thing in my head. And then at some point, for whatever reason, I channeled my 90-year-old self. And my 90-year-old self looking down on me saying, what was she so worried about? She had a couple of bucks in the bank. She had a condo. Her parents weren't going to let her starve. She had no kids or dependents. What was she so worried about? And I thought that was that was wisdom that came from somewhere, like my inner wisdom. And I just thought, all right, if this doesn't work out, you'll do something else. But in the meantime, this is what you're doing. And so I think that challenges are invitations to aspire to more, to get through a threshold of something else. But they sure don't feel like invitations in the moment. In the moment, they feel scary and upsetting, and they never go away. I think when I think about, what does it mean to have a powerful life? Powerful life means you get to pick your problems. Life is problems. So for you to have power, it's because you get to pick your problems. And I am blessed and fortunate to be able to pick my own problems.
Another goosebumps moment. Pick your problems. That is life in a nutshell.
Yes.
Now, Alisa, what is it that you would say? And I can name one thing that set you apart from any other executive coach I've looked at. I did love that rap. Something else I'd recommend checking out. What would you say has given you a competitive edge over other executive coaches in the field?
You know, the older I get and the more seasoned I get, I don't think it was competitive. What I think is that there's plenty to go around. And if you want to live your life serving others, then there's a lot of service you can do. At the same time, I am competitive. That's true. I am a competitive person. So I think what I did early in my career, and I still do, it's two things. Number one is I hustle every day. I don't rest on my laurels. I wake up early. I get my work done. I try. We were talking earlier about made with love. I try with intention, with love, with joy, and with hustle every day to build my business. And I made sacrifices to build my business. Like I remember vividly a Memorial Day weekend many years ago when I was living in Boston. I had to get on a plane to Hong Kong on Sunday night. It was Memorial Day weekend. And I had to finish this thing before I got on the plane. And in my mind's eye, it was a beautiful day. It was in Boston, a beautiful day. Everyone was outside, running around, riding their bikes. But I was at home, working on my thing. And that was not necessarily the best moment of my life, but being successful is very worthwhile. So I would just say that putting the time and effort in has, of course, led me to, my success. The second thing is I would say that I really focus when I deal with my clients or people around me, I want to add value immediately. If I meet with a new person who's deciding if they want me to coach them, my motto is I want to add value within 20 minutes. Because that's what matters, right? That people want to know, can I help them solve their problems? And I want to be able to show, don't tell. I don't want to talk about it. I want to demonstrate it.
Hard work and all that strategy. We're very lucky to get those tips from you today. Thank you. Now, in terms of getting yourself out there, getting out to the audience with all these new platforms, what has been the most effective for you to reach out to potential clients?
Well, I don't necessarily reach out to potential clients on sort of social media and whatnot, but I certainly use it to augment and build my brand so people kind of know what I'm doing. And I would say I use all the things, right? So LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. I have the most followers on LinkedIn, and I think it's the most business focused, and also, maybe there's some controversy around Facebook and certainly Instagram, and so I think there's LinkedIn's maybe a friendlier place or something, but I definitely, a lot of people say, oh, I don't have a social presence. I'm like, that's fine with me, you do you, but this is what I'm doing, right? Because they're powerful tools for people to find out what's going on. And I made a ton of connections through social media. People know what's going on with me. Also, you mentioned my rap, thank you. I also am an intense strength trainer. And when the pandemic showed up, I started posting videos of myself doing my kettlebell workout. And now people kind of know me for my kettlebells. And I think that's fun, to be known in a variety of ways.
I have to say, yes, that is one of the things that really made you stand out to me. I have to check out this kettlebell workshop.
Yeah.
Try it out myself, maybe.
Yeah.
And other than that, I know that you have the book coming out. Could you tell us a little bit more about what to expect from that book or any other developments that our listeners can look forward to?
My book is out. Actually, it came out in October, and it's called From Startup to Grown Up, and is the journey from founder to leader. But it's really the journey that all leaders go through as they grow, and that's what you need to do when you're a new employee, an individual contributor, moving into a manager when you manage some small number of people, moving into a leader who manages managers and then leads an organization. All of us have to go through phases of personal growth to get there, and that's what the book is about. It's divided into 3 sections: managing you, because that's where it starts. As I said in my music video, work is in you. Managing yourself, managing others, the people around you, and managing the business. So that's how it's divided. It's also in the back of the book. It has 14 scripts to help you with delicate conversations, difficult conversations, to help get your mouth around the words of how do you tell somebody that you're not promoting them? How do you deliver bad news? How do you give tough feedback? How do you fire someone? Like, what literally the words that you have to use? That's in the back of the book. And I interviewed 11 founders for that book, and I loved interviewing founders. It was amazing. So I thought, oh, this is so great. So I invented podcasting. Have you heard of podcasting? I invented it. I'm like, I know, I'm going to have a podcast. So my podcast is also called From Startup to Grown Up, where I interview founders.
And I've taken a listen at some of those podcasts. They are so engaging. There's so much to learn. You lead the conversation really well. I have to apologize. I know that your book is out.
Yeah,
I'm
okay.
just so overcome with. I'm a big fan, so sometimes I lose my train of
No
thought.
problem at all. My pleasure.
We have a lot of younger listeners as well, and they've been trying their own entrepreneurial
That's
ideas
amazing.
out.
Keep doing that.
Is there anything that you would advise them with if this is something that they want to pursue in the future?
To be entrepreneurs.
To be entrepreneurs.
You know, it's first of all, you have to know the journey is long and winding, and there are many detours and no shortcuts. So recognize what you're giving yourself into. If you're starting like your own side hustle business, your own like solopreneur business, that's amazing. And you can have a little lifestyle business and do that on weekends or evenings. If you want to build an enterprise, recognize that it's going to be a 7-year plus journey. So find a problem that you're so in love with that you're interested in spending that kind of time solving it. So that's one piece of advice. The other is like, you're going to have challenges. And so just accept that and recognize that it's your job as an entrepreneur to find your way through the challenges and around the challenges. No line is ever straight in that journey. And I would absolutely say get mentors and the network around you, and think about the ways you're going to keep going when the going gets tough, because the going will get tough.
Good advice to listen to. Now, before we close off, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
I'd like to share with you that you're a great interviewer, so thank you, and thank you for having me. I want to share that everybody, I was lucky enough to be on the Tim Ferriss show, the Tim Ferriss podcast, and at the end he asked you, what's a billboard you want to have out there? And I want to keep repeating my billboard, which is believe in yourself and then act like it. And I think if everybody would believe in themselves and then act like it, we'd have an elevated experience of life.
I will be quoting you quite a few times in our Winning Circle quotes. I can't thank you enough for joining us today, Alisa. I'm sure that the advice that you've given will be transforming some of our younger and more mature listeners into CEOs and founders you might see at Collision in future years.
That's right,
so
good.
Thank you once again.
Thank you very much, Robin.